Way. My name is Mark Reagan. I'm the executive director at the Conservatory of Music at New St. Andrews College, which is a rather long title that I have, but my job is to make sure that things are running smoothly in our daily operations. I run our private lesson signups and enrollments, handle different financial things, handle some of our planning, class scheduling, and all sorts of various things. And of course, I do work with our recruiting department. So as we were setting up this event, I relied pretty heavily on them. So a shout out and thanks to them for their help in getting this coordinated. Let's see. So I'll just mention a few things here by way of just information and announcements before we get into it. But several of you are students, are actually high school students. I'm really excited that you're with us to see what we do and to take part in this today. So we hope that you'll walk away with some improved idea of how to sing, and to do that with greater ease and greater joy. And so one of the things I want to address to you as students, and certainly to the teachers as well that are joining us, is that we have, in conjunction with our Bachelor of Arts degree at New St. Andrews College, we have a certificate of music. And we did this because we see such a need for quality, trained, visionary musicians, both in the schools and in the church. And certainly in classical education, we do really well with humanities and literature and Latin, but sometimes we don't do as well with music. So we're trying to promote that through our Certificate of Music program, which is a program that you do in conjunction with your BA at New St. Andrews. And I'm sure Dr. Laun can chime in and give us some more idea here of what that's about as we're going through the webinar today. But it's a way of taking lessons on a primary and secondary instrument, and then having some other classes in music theory, music history that will prepare you to serve the Lord beyond the walls of New St. Andrews, if you should choose to come to New St. Andrews, which of course you should. So I wanted to mention that. For those who are music teachers and administrators, parents as well, we have a couple things that you should be aware of. So during the summer each year, we have a teacher training program, which we call CSMI. And CSMI just stands for Chenaniah, who's a musical figure in the Bible. So Chenaniah Summer Music Institute. Dr. Laun helps teach in that institute, and that's at the end of July for 2 weeks each year. And so it's a training program to prepare teachers to just be better equipped to teach music, especially to younger children. So it's certainly not geared only for teachers in elementary music or grammar school, but that's where we start. That's where we lay the foundation for excellent teaching and good methods and music literacy. And that's a big thing that we talk about around here, is actually getting kids to understand music and be able to read it off the page. And that's the CSMI is taught in the Cody method, which that's a tried and true method. It's been around for 100 years or so. And Zoltan Cody, who was a Czech composer and musician, saw that music making in his country of Czech Republic was poor in those days. So he started
Hungary?
I'm sorry. Hungary.
Hungary, yeah.
Right. He was Hungarian, excuse me. Eastern Europe, I get confused.
All over there.
Right, that's right. Yeah, thanks for correcting that, Dr. Laun. So he started a music training program, basically using the methods that we use to teach language, particularly our own vernacular language, where children learn language through hearing their mothers speak to them and play with them, and they learn from their brothers and sisters. And so through play and ordinary activity, language is learned. And so we use in music, we use games and activities to help to teach musical skill along the way. So that gives you an idea of what we do at CSMI. And the last thing I'll mention before we pray and start is we have our National Honor Choir program, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. Unfortunately, because of COVID, that has changed life for all of us to one degree or another. It's looking like we're going to have to go to a Plan B this year for the National Honor Choir, which would have been in June, in conjunction with the ACCS conference in Louisville, Kentucky, because that's going online, the Repairing the Ruins conference. We're going to have to go to a Plan B with that. So stay tuned for details. But basically, every year, New St. Andrews hosts a National Honor Choir at the ACCS conference, where we invite auditionees from all over the country and Canada too. I know we have some Canadians watching today to participate. And you have to go through an audition and be selected to join the choir. But that's a really, really great thing that we're doing. It's a lot of fun. It's a week long. It's a week long, basically like a conference or a camp where the kids are meeting each other, singing together, doing activities together, dancing together, and it's a wonderful time. And I've enjoyed seeing what we can do with that. And Dr. Laun has been with us each of those years that we've done that. So so stay tuned for further details on that. But we'll definitely be returning. If we don't have it this year, we'll be returning to it next year. So that's all I have. If you have any questions for me, we have a question and answer button that you can hit at the bottom of your screen to answer the question, ask questions, and I'll answer them as I need to. But really, most of this time, I want to give to Dr. Laun. So what I want to do is pray real quick, and then I'll turn it over to him. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity for these participants to meet Dr. Laun and his students and see what he does with them and how to sing better and how to sing with greater joy and confidence and freedom. We thank you for this day. We thank you that you make each day and that you are with us each day. And through this time where we are finding ourselves sequestered and isolated, we thank you that we have even a blessing like the internet and Zoom, where we can communicate with each other and even be closer to each other than we normally would. We ask that you be with us, be with Dr. Laun and his students, and ask that this would be a glorifying event and that it would be useful to us. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. So, Dr. Laun, I'll turn it over to you, and could you just introduce yourself a little bit, and then,
Of course.
Then take it away.
Great. So yes, my name is Dr. Cody Laun. I have been teaching private voice at the collegiate level in some capacity for the last 8 years, 5 years out of my degree and 3 years in my doctoral degree. I have taught in a number of different environments in the collegiate world. I taught at Colorado State University, at a community college in Northern Colorado, and then 2 years now at New St. Andrews. And I enjoy teaching all genres, all disciplines within voice. I have students ranging from ages 16 to 60 or so. I think one of my youngest student currently is one that I'll be teaching today. What I'd encourage all of you to do, if you're a teacher or a student, whatever capacity that you're joining us in, is to observe as though you were being instructed. If you hear something in someone's voice, the young lady that I'll be teaching is 16 and the young man that I'll be teaching is 25, and they're both, the reason I chose them is because they are easily instructable. They are people who take to instruction quickly, and so you can hopefully see a good representation of what the various principles that I will outline do to a voice of a young lady, and then young man as well. Again, listening as though you were being instructed. And what I'll hopefully do what I usually try to do is I love having an audience for lessons like this, because I like to sort of interact with the audience in a way, even though we're not live in front of one another in the same way it would be in another capacity. Sort of address, did you hear such and such happen to the voice? And if you've got choirs or students of your own, or you are a student of singing in some capacity, and you hear something, again, oh, my student does that, or my own voice does that, please write that down, use those principles. This is not an academic class per se, where I will be outlining, on a whiteboard or a PowerPoint presentation what I'm doing, but both of these singers have gone from a certain level of capability to a vastly different, greater level of capability through their own hard work and through the principles that we go over in lessons and the things that we're faithful to. So hopefully I will address things that you have seen or that you have questions about, but feel free if you hear something or don't hear something or see something that you would like to, please ask those questions. I love to discuss these things and have no subject is off limits, so to speak, with that. There's no area that if I don't know the answer, I will say I don't, and I'll hopefully be able to go find it. So this is an opportunity for me to learn as well. Oh, did we freeze on the end of, on the other end? I see a frozen screen on Dr. Reagan. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm here.
Starting to move. There we are.
Okay. Very good. So, do we have Kayla first?
Yes, she was logging in and then it went away for a moment.
See. Okay, I see that she's muted. Okay,
there she is.
There she is. All right. All right. So, Kayla, you're still muted. There you. And now you're not muted. Okay. So, take it away.
Anyway, how are you today, Kayla? How are you feeling?
Very good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing really well. Thank you for being willing to be. Yeah, Kayla was my guinea pig for something last week as well. She takes to instruction quickly. Like I said, she's just that we discovered that as we've taken lessons, the things that I say to her make sense to her body and her brain. And so that's why I like to use those people that those things make sense, not because necessarily of their ability level per se, but her ability level is quite good, but she's just easily instructable. So, Kayla, I want you to tell the folks what we've been sort of the big three things that in the last few months that we've sort of been hammering away at in your understanding.
Okay. Let's see. The first thing is often I will get a little bit of tension. Earlier in my voice lessons, I struggle with a lot of tongue tension, and so occasionally I still get some hiccup there, especially if I'm trying to make a pitch or a certain sound. So one of the tools we've used recently that's been helpful is kind of layering, just starting by kind of peeling everything back and just being very easy and just letting the breath speed up and take over, that sort of thing. So I'm not using my tongue or my throat to make a sound. Mm-hmm. Another thing that's been helpful is engaging my zygomatic muscles up here. So that helps.
Those are your smile muscles for
yes.
Those that haven't heard the word zygomatic. Those are the muscles that are right to the sides of the bridge of your nose here that activate either up or out in sort of a pucker shape. Anyways, continue, Kayla.
So that's helpful to make different vowel shapes with your lips, and especially if you're getting up into a higher range, that can also help for me especially. And then one other thing, this was more at the beginning of the year, but I've still been playing around with it, but the different where you feel breath can change your sounds. So whether you're breathing kind of like a V shape down or filling up your rib cage and expanding your back, or maybe in a chest function, I might feel more of an expansion here. That's also been helpful for me.
Great. So what you're going to hear, everybody. So the three things that she said, the issues that you'll probably find with your own students are just layers of really intense tension in their bodies and their voices. So singing should be accessible, not necessarily easy. I don't say that singing should be easy because the body works. So there's as Kayla knows, you know, and as anyone who's been a serious student of singing knows, the body has to be involved in this process somehow. What we want is ease of production through the muscles of the throat and the neck, and all of this to only work, all these muscles in here to only work as much as they need to do that. So in Kayla's case, the tongue tension. Tongue tension at the base of your tongue here can, if you've ever had your own voice feel labored here, or you've seen someone's head shake as their vibrato might oscillate there, their whole neck and their head shakes, or a lack of vibrato, a straight tone sound that doesn't have that particular phenomenon of vibrato in it. So that the tongue tension can cause a number of different issues. So if you've experienced any of those in your own singing or in your students, that could be a culprit of that. So we've done some things to do that. With the zygomatic muscles, those are the expressive muscles that we use to, you know, communicate with one another, are also really helpful for different things in singing, and we'll go through some more. That's better shown than explained there. And then with the different breath areas of engagement, that also nobody's built the same. Men and women are built differently. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, and someone who is 5'5", 110 pounds is going to feel things very differently than I am. And so, you know, the way that we can feel those muscle engagements, I like to give my students options, because something that I feel that makes my voice feel so free and easy may be really not the right thing for somebody else. So it's both a really wonderful, beautiful thing about singing, and sometimes can be frustrating. So, but we're going to experiment with some of that today. We're doing some handle, right, Kayla? That's what we had discussed, is some of that handle. Cool. So let's start with the obra just to start things off, and then we'll go from there. But let's do a little bit. Have you sung today?
I did a little bit this morning, but I had classes.
Okay.
So.
Sure. Okay. So let's do on your rolled R to start. Let's do a descending scale starting on B flat in E flat. E flat. Good. So the reason that I'm using this rolled R exercise with Kayla, this does two primary things in my understanding, the way that I've experienced it for my voice and for most of my students, is that you can't ball up the base of your tongue and have a lot of base of tongue tension if you're rolling your R. Some people cannot do a rolled R genetically. It's just their body's programmed not to do it. Kayla's is fine. So if you can't do a rolled R, one of the other things we can do is an NG sound, like sing on that. So can we do just an example of that there? Let's go back down here. Good. Now I want you to intentionally grab onto that base of your tongue and do it again.
Okay.
And I don't know, isn't that, So I don't know if everybody can hear that necessarily, but what I hear is that the vibrato goes away. Because vibrato wants the larynx to oscillate and float very slightly inside the housing of the throat and the neck. And if we're balling up that base of the tongue and not just letting that air go, it stops the vibrato. That's one of the things it does. Or it can cause a vibrato that sounds like a goat. We call it a bleat, the goat bleat. In singing, that's one of those other things that we can hear. So if you've heard either lack of vibrato or a really unpleasant sound of the vibrato that feels like it's coming at your face with that fast speed, that's what that can do. So let's continue on your rolled R a little bit as we go. Oh, so yes, it releases the base tongue and then relies on the air system, your foundation of breath, to move that. Because if you're just going with that base, You really have to get that air moving through your face to get that to go. So let's do a couple more here on the roll off. And let's add now a little bit of the rear ribs. Feeling just a bit of expansion across the back there. Good, one more. So one of the reasons that we experiment with breath, as I said before, is that every person is different. So the weight distribution in a person from the waist up is going to affect the way that they feel that breath. The average size person, I had a friend who was a bass baritone, that he was a really stout guy. He was very, I mean, his just body, his rib cage, his shoulders, he was about as big around and stout as he was tall. So he felt things very differently than someone who's going to be tall and slender. And so we have to work on some of that. So the rear ribs, there's no wrong answer to breath, really. As long as we're releasing the muscles through here and not taking a gaspy breath that gets caught at the base of the tongue and the neck, there's not a wrong answer to this. So when you tell your choirs or when you tell your students or something to take a low breath and take a deep breath, that's a good thing, but we have to be specific. And that's one of those things that I'm not going to say, no, that was the wrong way to do it. But if I hear students that come into my studio that say, my previous teacher told me to take a low breath. What does that mean? Low? Well, if it's lower than the neck, it's low. So does lower than the neck mean expanding the rib cage around? Does it mean breathing into your back? Does it mean breathing all the way down your pelvis? What does that mean? So we have to be specific, and everybody's body is going to have a bit of a different preference on where they feel their sort of standard singing breath. So if you have questions about that later, we can certainly use that in the Q&A time, but let's keep going here. Let's do a little, let's do a full octave here, Kayla, and do full all the way through on O here with the zygomatic engagement as we go through, yeah? Good, very good, very good. On the bottom, just a little bit more rounding through the top there. I'll explain why I asked her to do that in a minute. Go again. Better. I could still even use more, but it was still better than before. Keep going. Good. Almost feel on the bottom as though it's going to go to ooh, like it's going to close just a bit more towards the top end of that. Go again. Do we hear, do we hear on the bottom of that how when she closed that vowel down just a little bit, oh, with the lips there, the vibrato sped up and felt less labored there? Did you, Kayla, she knows this is standard operating procedure for Kayla. Because so what happens with that is that when we engage the muscles of the face in a productive, intentional way like that, and we're not spreading or pulling down in the face on that, we get rid of that tongue tension, because as the lips come this way, the tongue is encouraged to come a little bit higher in the mouth, and we don't want a tongue that's so high that it fills up the mouth so much we don't have space. But in a way of higher versus lower, we want a higher tongue position. And so as we we activate that tongue to be a little higher in the mouth. Very good. Now keep going here, and now ah here, and let's do, yeah, let's just go straight to ah right here. Gorgeous, very good. Even feel a little bit longer on the roof of the mouth for that, but that was really nice. Do again. Yes, very good, very good. Can we go and I'll explain why I'm doing this with Kayla in a minute here too. So can we do I, and end on the ah, yeah? Now breathe in through that exact shape and sing the arpeggio. And we hear how that ah gets a little more true to the ah vowel. So one of the things this exercise, so the two things that we did, Kayla, because of the base of tongue tension that she struggled with a lot at the beginning of our time together. She's been 2 full-time years with me and a few in between. When we first diagnosed this tongue tension, she had the head shake. She had the head and neck shake going on. When she would hold pitches like that, the jaw, the neck, the head would all have sympathetic because there was so much tension at the base of the tongue. So the thing that we want to do with that is divorce the tongue and the jaw. We want the jaw to be able to release, and then the tongue to move freely within the space we've released. So that's why I did that exercise, so that when we have we don't get we're able to get more of a true which is a more released base of tongue shape that way. So as we're singing the A to the in that fashion, then we got to that truer and we were able to get that arpeggio to just fail. Can we do the same thing? And then we're going to do the full arpeggio on there, yeah? And then full arpeggio. So do it one more time, and then just breathe in to that that you finished on, and do the, yeah, do it one more time. And I don't know if you can see, I mean, some of you may have different ears developed or whatever for that, but you see how as she's doing this exercise, everything is totally released and neutral. This is a absolutely fantastic exercise to do for your choirs or your voice students or yourself, because the jaw is like a door. We want it to swing on the hinge, but we don't need to take it off its hinges to make things happen. The jaw will move a little bit as we move, through. We have to use the jaw for some consonants and things, sure, but we want it to move as little as possible and to have as much release as possible through this. So as we have and then she was just able to with absolutely nothing happening because she had already set that up in the release. I hope that makes sense. I know I'm going quickly through some of this stuff, but let's do one more. And then we'll full arpeggio for me. Let's try it one more time.
Yeah.
Breathe into those ribs. Yeah, as you saw her shoulders just come up a tiny bit there. So I'm gonna direct her to breathe into the ribs through this part of her back and her the sort of lateral portion of her body there, and do it again. And did you hear, I hope you heard, because Kayla felt, I know, the increase. So as one of the reasons that we have why we talk about low breath in singing in general is because as the rib cage expands, the larynx is attached to the trachea, which is attached to the bronchial tubes, which go into your lungs. So if we're expanding generally out and down, not forced, not artificial for your body, but generally expanding the lungs and the rib cage and the lower abdominal muscles out and down, that pulls that trachea down, pulls the larynx down, which is the larynx comes down without forcing it with the tongue, which is one thing we sometimes try to do, is try to muscle that sucker down. It adds space here, and then often as we add space by lowering the larynx, the soft palate comes up as well. So we get space moving on both ends of that, and you get that beautiful, gorgeous sound. Is your clock going off? Is that? It's noon. It's okay. No worries. So I hope that made sense. We're going to move on to some rep and do some more stuff with that too. So let's move into that. Ombra mai fu.
I'm ready when you are.
Cool. Go for it.
From just the aria.
Yeah.
sorry, keep going. Di vegetabile correre amabile suave più ombra mai fu.
Good. Let's use that much. So one of the things that I will encourage you to do with all your students that I love to do with mine is, rather than necessarily always, I mean, I'm a talker. I like to jump in fast to things, but I will ask them, what did you like about that? Because so often singing becomes stressful because we're worried about getting it right. Yeah, it's nice to sing well, of course, but if you don't enjoy the process of figuring out how to do that, you're always going to be focused on the result, and that's just going to make you miserable. I had a young lady, one of my other young ladies from my Moscow studio, was one of the most critical thinker. I mean, she so wants to get it right. And so anytime anything would go wrong, she'd come in my studio and we'd be warming up, and she struggles with just latent tension in her body from existence, not from singing necessarily, but she would come in, and the minute something didn't go the way she wanted it to, everything would just lock down. Her body and her brain would just automatically lock down. And I told her, okay, so-and-so, you have to take inventory of the good this week. You can't take inventory of the bad. You're going to know what you didn't like, fine, but you have to take inventory of the good things. So because otherwise, again, you're just going to be miserable and not enjoy the process, and then that product's going to come and it's going to be so much less sweet, having labored so hard, almost mentally, to get there. So I ask my students often when they finish, okay, what did you like, or what did you think about that? Tell me about what you just did. So Kayla, what did you like about that?
I liked when I felt my breath was higher. I could feel it more up in my cheek muscles.
Okay.
And there are more things I didn't like about that one.
Okay.
My vibrato wasn't super steady, and so
Okay.
I need to work on releasing and just letting the breath take care of that.
Okay, sure. So we got one of each. Let's say we've got some good ringy things that we got in there, and then some breath things. So one of the other exercises that I do with Kayla recently, especially in the last maybe 2 or 3 lessons that we've started to implement this, is what I call just a layering process of the breath. Starting really intentionally making breathy sounds, and then layering core, ring, focus, all the words that we think of in that to the voice, slowly as we repeat that. So can you do the first just ombra mai fu, maybe, yeah, just do those first 3 words at the very beginning in an anemic, breathy place.
On the text?
Uh-huh. Okay, so did you already hear, Kayla knew, you already heard the vibrato sped up. So we don't want vibrato that's so fast that we were talking about earlier that it's the goat bleat, but there's an acceptable oscillation of vibrato within the voice that it's 6 to 8 oscillations per second, or 5 to 8, depending on who you ask, oscillations per second. And so that was on the faster end of the sort of middle ground there. That makes it a little more pleasing to the ear there. So can you do that same layer of that just breathy release there with a little bit more top lip for me?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And in Baroque music, this is Handel. In Baroque music, it's acceptable to have some straight tone moving into vibrato. We don't always have to have it immediate vibrato, which is fine. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing it that way. That's a stylistic thing we don't have to go into right now, but just so if you were noticing that. But good. Now add the focus, but add it up, child. Yeah. So we're going to do the same thing with the top lip. We're just going to layer the sound closer to the hard palate. And that's fine. That's exactly what that's as much focus as you need, because you're not, so the reason that I have her do this is because in my voice, I'm 32 and have a doctorate, and I still work on a lot of things in my practice, making sure that I'm not going back to old habits or becoming unaware of certain things that are happening. We have to rely on 95% of the voice is the breath content that's in it. So if we're grabbing with the tongue or the neck or anything, it's going to change the stability of the voice. So if we can kind of strip away the idea of the correct sound that we're supposed to have, and then we can add the layers of the focus this way by speeding up that air. And that's a longer process to explain. That's a little more advanced of what we're doing. But the principle there is when you're teaching your kids or taking voice yourself or whatever situation you're in, don't be afraid to make sounds as a means to an end that aren't the sounds you think you should be making. Because I would never ask Kayla to get on stage and go, I would never ask her to do that in a performance setting, but it's a means to an end so that she can feel the release. So don't be afraid of those sounds that aren't ideal, that aren't your one and only perfect sound in that there. I want to tweak one vowel with this. Ombra, ombra, just a little more on the ah, yeah? Yeah. But everything else is really nice. And then I want you to keep going with this more air content into the roof of the mouth. Yeah? So do the little bit more lifts on ah and then just keep going.
Keep going.
Oh yes, so yes, Cara Mabi was so darn good. You had all that focus, all that core, all those overtones. Yeah, can we just do it right there at Kaba? Good. Now on Kara, don't you get too concerned with your sound. You just breathe. Yeah? Do it one more time. And continue on suave più. Yeah, sorry there, suave più. Good. So this brings up my next point of what I encourage my students to do. So I don't know how many of you have taken voice or are in voice or teach voice or whatever. I'm going to say something. I don't say very many things sort of dogmatically, but one of them I'm going to say is that chest voice is not bad. If you think chest voice is bad, you can message me and we can chat about it because it's not a bad thing. It needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done healthfully. But the development of, it's called the vocalis muscle inside the vocal folds. It's one of the deeper layers of the vocal folds. Is one of the things that contributes to chest mechanism. It's a muscle that needs to be developed. If all your children ever do is sing in non-chest without that muscle, then they're never going to develop some of that color that we want that's going to tune the sound, that's going to bring richness to the sound. So we've been working with Kayla. Kayla once upon a time had either really tense chest production or really hooty head production. There was no unification of the two. So we've been working. She's singing some music theater for me that's just wonderful. That uses a lot of different tools that we've been working with it. But when we have the that nice cut and core to that chest voice, and we can go over if you have. I have strategies for that on how to develop that. But chest voice is not bad, and Kayla will tell you that as we've developed both parts, the whole voice feels easier.
Yes.
It just does. So can you just sing that very last that descent down for me on Ombra Mai Fu? And still round, still up, but let that collarbone come apart. Mm-hmm. Good. Can you go? No, 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 but no, 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 no. Do it on that real tall with just a little bit of that to get that lined up into the hard palate.
No, 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 no.
Good. Can you do nya nya?
Nya, 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 nya.
And now nya.
Nya, 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 nya. I can't say it.
Yep. So what changed on the roof of your mouth for that?
Oh, my soft palate went up even though I had this. But
Good. So can you breathe into that spot and sing it on the words now?
yeah.
Good. Yes. Much better. So we have. I won't go into that. That's too extended on this. Good. So I want to we've got like 2 minutes left of your portion. So I want to go into one of those strategies for chest production that we've done. So one of the things that we talk about in voice, if you teach at an ACCS school or in some capacity sort of within our circles, you might not do as much modern chest requirement music in a lot of fashion, but it's a really good thing to develop. So chest voice is essentially, in my thinking, is just released speech. It's really speech position driven. So can you, let's do a little bit. So one of the things I do is just a pitched speech exercise with my students. So can you go, hey, right here?
Hey.
Uh-huh. Hey.
Hey.
Uh-huh. Ho.
Ho.
Hello, my name is Kayla.
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 Uh-huh. And then can you do it up here but in head voice and speak the same thing?
Hello, my name is Kayla.
Uh-huh. So we've got the difference there. So I have them sing speak in a register that's more easily accessible to a pitch of what chest production would be, and then we go back and forth. I'm doing this with lots of my ladies right now because I used to be of the opinion that chest voice was dangerous, that it was like you should never do it, it's just bad to do, and I have since become older and wiser. I've got gray hairs to prove it. So that's one exercise out of many, but that's a really easy, accessible one that if they're breathing open and released in a really nice way, and then singing into that upper position without clenching here, and if you do it a little bit in the speech way, it often lends itself to a more released neck, because we don't think of, when we sing, we have this concept of trying. When we speak, we don't have nearly that same connection for whatever reason. It's just the way that we're wired. I don't know, there's lots of reasons for it, but using that is one of the best exercises that I found to start the process of discovering and then developing their chest register. So thank you, Kayla, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Now we've got, I think, Gabe coming on here in a minute. There he is.
Here, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Let me just encourage our viewers here for a second before we start. So viewers, if you have questions, you can start to log them in the Q&A button. So that should be at the bottom of your viewer screen. And I'd recommend you do that now rather than waiting to the end, just so we don't run out of time. So if things are occurring to you, go ahead and type those in. And then when we get to that time later on, I'll go ahead and moderate the questions for Dr. Laun so he can just focus on teaching and answering. So, all right, back to you. Thank you.
How are you doing today, Gabe?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. I could have people watching me teach all the time because it gives me fire. So the last young lady that you all heard was Kayla. She was 16-year-old. I'm saying soprano for now because she's got some crazy high notes, but she's 16, so I haven't yet typed her as a soprano or a mezzo or anything necessarily. But Gabe is 25, right? Is that I asked you the other day?
Yep.
Okay. So Gabe's 25. Gabe is one of my finishing certificate students at New St. Andrews. I teach a number of different kinds of students. I've got community students that are various ages, and then certificate of music students through the program we have at the college as well. Gabe is I'm saying a bass baritone. There's in our operatic world, we have what's called a Fach, F-A-C-H. It's the German word for subject. And so your Fach is your voice type. And so there are multiple different kinds of voice types within all the different, I'm a tenor, but I'm a specific kind of tenor. There's a bunch of different things like that. So Gabe, we've been really starting recently, getting Gabe some repertoire that is specific to his, what I would type him in as an operatic voice type. He's not hoping to have an international operatic career, but the repertoire that we assign for that sort of thing helps develop the voice in a way that even if someone's not hoping to be some sort of professional classical performer, I think to myself, why not get you as good as we can? You know, it just seems silly to me to have like, well, I'm only planning on doing this. Well, why not be really good then? You know, why not go for it? So Gabe is now planning on being an international performer. But Gabe and I have had a lot of fun because Gabe's got a great mind for questions, a great mind for pedagogy. He's really quite a gifted, he's got a gifted ear, and it's been fun to teach him for a multitude of reasons, but one of them being for the first year we were together, this is his second year with me as well, he came in every lesson with questions. He would go, so you told me to do this, but it felt like this and not like what you said it would. Like, great. Well, then we can figure it out. And I love that about Gabe, is that he's never afraid to not challenge me in a combative way, but challenge me to say, hey, we did this. Can you clarify that? Or is there something else we can do? So I love that. Love that about Gabe. I had Kayla do the same thing, Gabe. Rather than me telling them, tell our watchers, our viewers, what things we've been, not maybe the brand new stuff with the higher voice stuff, but in general the stuff that we've worked with you most frequently.
Probably. I think generally speaking, we're always working on breath. We're always working on different ways of breathing. We're taking different kinds of breaths for different situations, different characters, different types of music. And always working on legato singing, so singing with legato breath. So that's always in the background of what we're doing. And then recently kind of focusing on the shape of the vowel, and especially a vowel that ascends rather than a vowel that widens.
Great.
Has been a really important thing to work. And then also the covered sound that we've been working on.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I wanted to teach Gabe and Kayla both, I already said, was because they both take instruction very well, so you can hear the differences in their voices as things happen. But the other thing that one of the reasons is because Gabe is an old, he's 25, and so he's almost 10 years older than Kayla. So there are different things that happen in an older voice that don't happen in a younger voice. So those of you with young men, I will try to explain the things I'm doing with Gabe that would also work with a younger high school student male. We're going to start with a couple exercises that are familiar to Gabe, but maybe we haven't done as much of recently. We're going to do some that we've done recently and some not. But the thing have you done all your stretches, Gabe?
I have not.
No, okay. So do them for everybody, and I will explain what you're doing as you do them.
Okay.
So the voice is a muscle like anything else, and it has muscles inside your larynx and intrinsic muscles and extrinsic muscles as well. So what Gabe is stretching right now is if you turn your head and you find the big ropey muscle that inserts up behind your ear and then into your clavicle, that's called the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and it's in the family of muscles that are rib raisers that open the rib cage, but we don't want them to. As we say, we want your sternocleidomastoid, your SCM for short, SCM muscles, to not engage. We don't engage them when we're singing, but again, as we exist in our lives, we develop just tensions that aren't intentional. We don't purpose to do these things that make us tense, but sometimes it happens. So with that being said, one of the things that I've worked with all my students on is stretching these muscles out and stretching. I was talking earlier with Kayla about the breath that lowers the larynx. So sometimes we can take that breath, but the muscles are just tense, again, because of existence. Excuse me, not because of anything that we're doing intentionally as we speak or sing or whatever, but all these stretches that he's doing are helping decompress the cartilages inside the larynx as well as the muscles that make up the housing for the voice. So that's what all those are, and I can detail those as we go. But that's the reason for it. Is it's like you can have the greatest technique as a gymnast or a runner or a lacrosse player or whatever, what have you, and if your body's stiff, if it's not in shape outside of that game, you may know exactly what you're doing, but it's going to help to bring those things into your actual active participation in that activity. So let's do, one of the things I do with Gabe is Gabe has a really big voice. I have to speak full volume at him in lessons when he's singing full volume at me. He's got a big voice. And so one of the things with big voices like that is that there's some different pitfalls that we can run into with that. One of them is just overburdening of the voice with some of these muscles. So one of the things that I did with Kayla that's similar to what I'm going to do with Gabe is an aspirate. We call it an aspirate onset or aspirate singing, because that sort of decompresses gets rid of the involvement of some of the muscles that can compress the voice and add fuzz to the voice, husk, gravel. There are many things, many words, many ways to think of it. But so let's do down here, Gabe. Let's go. Let's do it on a hum, just real loose hum, lots of air. Be worried about your air, not your sound. Yeah, that's transitioning up really nice. Couple more. Really nice. So one of the things with both Kayla and Gabe that we've been focusing on is different areas of decompression of the voice. Only involving the muscles that need to be. So as we use this exercise, I find that hum, NG, a lip buzz like that, or a raspberry with your tongue, or a rolled R, all those things, they are called semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. That there's a whole bunch of science behind that we don't have time to go into why those work, but they're wonderful. The big thing to remember, one of the things I didn't talk about at all with Kayla is because she just doesn't really have issues with it anymore after we've spent long on it, and neither does Gabe, is alignment, spinal and skeletal alignment, because that's what we spent, probably our first semester, like, just making sure. So I have a special from my doctoral mentor system of becoming aware of your spinal alignment. I can go through that later. I'd rather do more fun stuff at the moment with Gabe, but needless to say, Gabe will confirm that there's a lot of work that goes into being aware of where that is, and now that we've spent so long on it, they don't have alignment issues anymore. They're just able to sing more, and we can do more above the level of the body there. But we will talk about, I'll detail my alignment system in Q&A if we have people that are interested. Great, so let's do an ah, just go straight to ah, and let's do just the same arpeggio going up here. Try an ah there. So that giant sound Gabe's putting out, that's like Gabe's mezzo piano right now. It's you'll hear as he goes. It's pretty hefty.
An aspirate onset.
Uh-huh.
Ah, 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 ah.
So on that last one, tell the people what you feel in your resonance as it goes to that fifth.
Right. So there's a this is where the voice starts to change or starts to flip here into a different space. So it's going to
Yeah.
feel less probably dominant here and more coming out of the head
Mm-hmm.
itself somewhere
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
cheeks.
Yeah. So what Gabe's describing is something that if you've sung in any noticeable capacity, you've experienced the feeling of the voice, of the presence of the voice, the vibration of the voice, whatever, moving up. It doesn't actually move. It's not that it moves anywhere. It's not that the location is different. The same things are vibrating. Everything from your vocal folds to the tip of your lips vibrates. But it's the acoustic of the sound. As the sound waves vibrate faster, we just naturally feel them in a higher position. But one of the things that we often try to do, or we may actually stop feeling it. Some of you may experience that the sound actually feels like it's going out, and we fight that sometimes. We fight it and try to clench down on the jaw and the tongue and the neck to keep that sound in. That's one of the things that I've been working so hard with Gabe, is just let's move, let the voice do what it wants to do. So with your younger males, with your younger male singers, the progression of what I started with is, we talked about posture. I'll talk about that later, but we start with good alignment in your skeletal structure. Then we use the stretches. Use those stretches. I will also go over those later. Then we start with hum, R, the rolled R, the NG, any of those semi-occluded vocal tract exercises after that. Then we move to a vowel. So it's this progression that gets the body used to using the air from a good alignment position. And then when we move to this vowel, as we keep going, male voices like to close and round the vowel as we go higher. Female voices don't do quite the same thing. Sometimes as we go higher, female voices want to open this way, whereas for male voices, we want it to close with these zygomatic muscles rather than open this way. So as we keep going, you'll see Gabe start to modify this vowel slightly, just rounding those lips, which helps that acoustic keep traveling up. I know it was a lot of words, so let's listen to that rather than having me talk about it. So switch to a little bit of a rounding here. And you can see he's not trumpeting his lips crazy, but there is a noticeable rounding of that, but it's still he's just lengthening his vocal tract so that it speeds up the air. It's the same thing that if you put your thumb over the end of a hose, the water travels further and faster because you've slimmed the space out of which the water comes. Good, Gabe. Yeah, buddy, that's so silky. Good. And now even move a little closer to O here. Yeah. And I don't know, those of you that might have heard that shift in the sound where it almost feels, if you've ever watched anybody eat it on a skateboard, fall down on a skateboard, eat it, that's really academic, really proper. If you ever watch somebody have some sort of physical accident and you feel that pain with them, we all have physical empathy there. So one of the things that I teach on, that I encourage people to do, is physical empathy. That's a long process to develop, but one of the ways we develop it is by doing things intentionally, ineffectively. We do things the wrong way so we can feel what that's like, and then I record that in my in my process in my doctorate, we were going to record those exercises, hear what happened to it in that sound result, so that when somebody does the same thing, our bodies know, oh, that sound means they're doing this, most likely. It's not foolproof, but it's so useful. It's so, so useful. So if you have any degree of that feeling, I can feel as he goes, and if you've listened to that, you heard that sound pop up into a higher position there. Do that one again, Gabe. That was great. Even better, big guy. Good. Good. And now even just 1 degree further pucker on this one here. Good. And we heard that. That pops into that higher position there. So for Gabe, Gabe has really wonderful, rich, low E's and D's. He's got this big, low voice. And the fact that he's singing clean F naturals up there right now, that's that process of breath consistency, alignment, and resonance tracking that we're talking about with this. Again, male voices, as they ascend, want to close the vowel. We can close the vowel and round it in several ways, but the 2 most easily accessible ways is moving the tongue. So instead of staying with the true E vowel, as long as it doesn't start to tense at the base of the tongue. And that's another explanation that I'm sorry I don't have as much time as I would like to explain that. But we stay on those closed vowels, and if we're releasing and staying consistent with the air production that we're giving, that pops right up into the pocket for male voices. Do not ask your male voices, well, I shouldn't say do not. If you ask your male voices to open up in a big way, in a very obvious, pronounced way, as they ascend, sometimes that's useful. I'm not saying it's not, but don't be surprised if they actually have a harder time singing than if you ask them to round and close. Females, yes, you can ask them to do more of that. Males, it's very different because of the way that the voice, the larger chest quotient, the more participation of chest voice that males have higher in their sound naturally, has to close that down. So I can explain more of that later. If you have questions, some of this is really useful. Some of this I'm going, oh gosh, I'm explaining, really, really heady stuff. But good. So we're doing a little bit of Copeland, right? That was what we were. Cool. Which one do you want to do? I don't care.
Okay. Let's do that one we were doing the other day.
A long time ago?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a set of Aaron Copeland old American songs. I started at the end of last semester for at Christmas break. I assigned Gabe. I said, "Here's 10 songs in this whole set of 10 songs plus an aria from an oratorio," and said, "Have fun. Whatever you want to do with this, I don't care. We're just going to explore." One of the reasons that I wanted to do this with him is because especially in the male voice, we have so many fun colors that we can play with falsetto, what we call head voice. It's not a mechanism, but it is a color, and it is a slightly different function. Men do not have head voice the same way women have head voice. Let me get that. That's just a functional thing. That's one of those myths I want to debunk. They just don't. There's some similarities there, but they just don't have quite the same thing. So we can use some of the falsetto colors and mechanism as well as chest in this, and they're just pretty. They're just nice, and they're all really, even if you don't like them, they're just wonderful music. There are certain ones that Gabe goes, I don't like this one as much. Fine, we can do other ones, but let's start right at the beginning there.
On the lake where drooped the willow, long time ago, where the rocks threw back the billow, brighter than snow, dwelt a maid beloved and and cherished by high and low. But the autumn leaf she perished long time ago.
Yes, sir. Very nice. What did you like about that?
I just lost you. Sorry. You cut
Oh,
out.
okay.
Sorry.
What did you like about that?
It's mostly the voice is going where it needs to mostly.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I have enough breath today to get through phrases, which is great.
Yeah.
And so it's settling where it needs to today. So.
Yeah. So this piece has a number of different dynamic considerations and registration considerations, because you heard that the brighter than snow. So for Gabe, that's a D natural. So that's right in the middle of where his passaggio begins. So the passaggio, if you've not heard that word, a lot of people call it your break. That's sort of the layman's term for it. Passaggio is just the Italian word for passage. And it's the range, it's the part of the voice in which there's an acoustic shift, like we were talking about in his vocalises that we did, where it feels like it's going to shift up a little bit. His kind of starts at about a C sharp. That's where his begins there, where it starts to, and we can manipulate that a little bit with some intentional movements, but that's where his starts. So that D is right in the middle. So we have to be careful what we're doing with that. Yeah, great. So the colors we're using in this are head voice colors, a little less chest participation in that sound, and that also still needs, that nice round position. And so he's doing a great job of keeping that throughout. Let's keep going and finish it, and then we'll come back.
Rock and tree and flowing water, long time ago, bird and bee and blossom taught her love's spell to know. While to my fond words she listened, murmuring low, tenderly her blue eyes glistened, long time ago.
Great. Nice day crescendo. Very good. Very good. Yeah, this is better than it was earlier in the week. Yeah, quite nice. Quite nice. Good. So again, the tools we're using in this for Gabe are dynamic tools, which especially for male voices, dynamic tools, we can sing quietly in a more chest-dominant production. We can sing softly in a less chest-dominant production. But one of the great tools that we have is that we have so much freedom as men to sing with various levels of that. So most of this is pretty falsetto influenced. There's a lot less chest participation in a lot of this sound because it calls for it. So can you sing it from the beginning on like a mezzo forte forte and just show them the difference in the sound and describe the sensation? Because I can tell them, but it's better if it comes from you because you're the one doing it. So sing the beginning like you would sing the Purcell.
On the lake where drooped the willow, long time ago, where the rock threw back the billow, long brighter than snow.
So other than volume, yes, we heard it get louder, sure, but the timbre, the tone color changed, right? So what did you do And what did it feel like in the various areas that we talked about?
Well, it's gonna. So if the other way I'm focusing on more of an ooh shape all the time,
Okay.
this is gonna be an ah shape perhaps,
Okay.
or it's gonna be a more brighter resonant sound. So I feel more resonance happening in my body, in my head, whereas the other technique I'm not gonna feel that as pronounced. And in this particular way, I'm not focusing on singing the consonants in way that I would sing the other one, which was singing through the consonants more specifically. This is I'm going to roll R's differently than I would singing the other way. So.
Yeah. So this is a longer, again, this strategy, this path for Dave is a longer explanation than we have as much time for as I'd enjoy. But the things to take away from this for your young male singers is focusing, again, first on alignment, which we've got some time for. I can hopefully go a little bit through. Consistent breath. Whatever you do, the breath has to be consistent. We get better mileage on the highway than we do in the city. And so I always talk to my singers about highway singing rather than city singing, because we don't want on the lake where drooped the willow. We don't want that breath. We can enunciate the text. On the lake where drooped the willow long time ago. We can do that with the language, but we want the breath underneath it to be blowing consistently underneath. So one of the exercises that I do for that is that I have them think the melody in their head, or I play the melody, and they breathe in, and they just blow the air consistently, paying attention to what they feel in their body, most importantly, what they feel in their body, so that sensation in the body is just steady giving of the breath with that concept above, and then we sing it on a vowel, we sing it on the vowels of the text without the consonants, and we put that process together. So we've got the alignment, the consistent breath, for men in particular, developing falsetto access. So one of the exercises that I did with Gabe, we'll do really fast here. So give me an ooh and go, just on ooh. You're singing that in chest, and it's weird, and I love it. Let's go a little higher. Let's go down from that.
Go ahead, voice. Okay, makes more sense.
Good. So we do stuff like that where it's top down. Yeah. So we do top down singing like that to access that head voice, and then I have them just go down by half steps, and then when it drops into chest, great. Let it drop into chest. Then we spend time on, say it drops for me, it's sort of like maybe on an F where I can do that, where I go and I make that transition between chest and falsetto. You explore the messy spots a little bit with that. So we do a little bit of falsetto building, and we do chest intentional, falsetto intentional, and then try to join them in the middle by spending some time on those cracky spaces sort of there. But great, Gabe. Thank you. We are right at half hour. So.
Thank you. I was glad to do it.
Good. Thanks, Gabe. All right. Well, we're going to go to Q&A here. I've had some of you write in some questions, and I just want to thank you for your participation in this. And it's interesting to me just to see where you're from. So, so many of you, more than half of you, are high school students, which is great. So we want to be available to reach out to you and just share this good stuff that we're doing, and kind of give you also a flavor of what NSA is about. So I had, of our registrants, and I know that we're down a little bit from our total registrations, but 17 high school students, and then 10 music teachers. So hello to you. 3 parents and 1 administrator. So thanks for joining us. And then you come from all kinds of different places. We have 2 from Canada, 1 from Alabama, 1 from Arkansas, 1 from Florida, 2 from Georgia, 3 from Idaho, 11 from Missouri, and I think you're all in the same class. You're all high school students from Ozarks Christian Academy, so welcome to you.
Your administrator, one of your administrators, Jerry Martin at Ozarks, was my high school government civics teacher. So we have that connection then.
Yeah, that's cool. 2 from Oregon, 1 from Texas, 2 from Virginia, and 3 from Washington, 1 from Wisconsin, 1 from West Virginia. So so that's great. It's nice to have such a wide participation here. So I think what we'll do is just get to some questions here, and these are some good questions. Not some are maybe more are more wider reaching to reaching into different issues, and these are interesting to me too, because I do direct choir here in Moscow, and I'm always looking for helps and tricks to get my singers singing better. So you talked, Dr. Laun, a little bit about low breath, and maybe you could explain just a little bit more. The question that was asked was, are there different types of low breaths, or what different types of low breaths are there?
Yeah. So if you've been in a choir with anybody that uses any sort of standard vocal terminology, you've probably heard low breath. You've probably heard that word. And so to every person, that's going to instinctively happen differently. Not any 2 people are going to feel that. So my idea of low breath, of a breath that is purposefully directed that way, is. So the way that I breathe, I'm going to stand up and do a little bit of just pointing around to how I feel this. My maintenance breath, the breath that I feel most, is around my rib cage. I feel an expansion this way, moving all around. So I play with that by lying on the floor, feeling that expansion. I can lean over in a chair and feel some of that expansion as well. So that breath here. I also then can feel some of my lowest part of my abdominal muscles engaging down here, as well as into my lower back and my tailbone, moving sort of in opposing directions there. And you do that by experimentation. There's no direct way to say just do that, just move that. The thing I was talking about, the special posture system that we use in my studio and that I learned from my doctoral mentor teacher, is that you sit on we sit on yoga blocks up against the wall. You sit up against the wall, cross-legged down on those, and you have the base of your back, your shoulder blades, and the base of your skull in contact with the wall, and you breathe, releasing the muscles of the neck, and you feel what moves. The wall gives you feedback on what things in your body move and stretch as you breathe in. So then we play with, okay, feel pressure against the wall beneath your shoulder blades. Feel pressure against the wall in your lower back. And these different areas to breathe into a low breath that are useful for different things or useful for different people. So I know that's a mad dash through that explanation, but wall sits or lying on the floor, leaning over in a chair, anything that gives you external feedback on what you feel stretching and moving as you breathe is helpful, so that we're not going and gasping from the throat and bringing up our collarbone and our shoulders. So that's what I try to avoid, is noisy breath that moves this way. Everything else is sort of fair game.
Very good. And do you think much about air speed when you're singing?
Oh, yes.
Your phrase?
Yes. So air speed is one of these elusive concepts that a lot of people will say speed up the air. And I think Kayla said that at one point, and Dave may have as well, as they were having their lessons. Air speed can happen in a number of different ways. You can have air speed from the source in your body, wherever you're feeling that breath, by continuing that engagement, continuing that stretch, continuing that activity. that you started when you had your inhale. One of the other ways we can speed up the breath is by closing the vowel. I was talking about that airspeed, or the closing of the vowel with Gabe and with men, that we want to round and have a more closed rather than wide open vowel as we ascend. That it was what I was explaining with the hose, where if you've got, you have water coming out of your hose and it's going about this far. You put your thumb over the end of that hose and suddenly it's going way faster and way farther. By closing your vowel, your air does the same thing. Your air will travel literally faster out by closing that vowel. And so airspeed can happen that way as well. So we've got airspeed from the source and airspeed in the language by way of manipulation of the vowel. And what that does is it deburdens the throat so that we don't have to try to close and speed up the air here. We can speed it up in the vowel or in the body.
Okay, thank you. So next question, this sounds like kind of a personal question, but what are your favorite exercises for everyday practice? What do you like to use?
So my routine, I'll give you like an example of each a little bit here. I start with the stretches that Gabe was doing. That's my first thing. And then I will, I'll start with a hum or a lip buzz or something. So I'll start for me, for instance, any of those that get that semi-occluded vocal tract that I was talking about. Then I'll move to a vowel. I start on a closed vowel, E, U, O, one of those that's more closed, and then I also practice my more open vowel. And I'll do that in a limited range, or then, so I start with stretches, semi-occluded vocal tract, closed vowel in a limited range, open vowel, and then move to something more expansive in terms of the range that I use. It's not that I have favorite exercises per se. There are things that other teachers do that I don't, not because I don't like them, just because I don't do them necessarily, but it's more of the progression of how the voice works rather than specific exercises that I do.
Good. So, tell us again, why do you choose that particular progression? So is it semi-occluded? Is that what it is? Semi-occluded exercises. So once you're stretched in a little bit and you're getting the voice to go a little bit. So why would you start there as opposed to doing something with a more open vowel, starting right with ah?
So the semi-occluded vocal tract exercise, SOVT, as we have acronyms for everything because voice words are big and anatomical. So we have SOVT exercises so there is air pressure in the voice. We have pressure of air. We have pressure of air from the body, and we have pressure of air in our resonance. Semi-occluded vocal tract, those SOVT exercises, take the pressure off of having it beneath. I mean, I would say show of hands, but you can't see you. How many of you have sung and had pain here? We can all probably say, yes, I've been tired and painful in here. So these semi-occluded vocal tract exercises put the air pressure above the glottis by closing, whatever that is, and it gets rid of the pressure beneath the vocal folds and puts it up here. So that takes the burden off of this. So then once you've gotten used to that sensation, then moving to a closed vowel to an open vowel more gets the body in the progression of keeping that pressure that way, because we can have the same absence of pressure here on an open vowel, but sometimes it's easier to get into that through something that more naturally lends itself to the pressure here rather than starting with an open vowel. I hope that made sense. That was, again, a fast progression through that.
That's great. And what about this? Because this is something that I deal with too, and I'm sure maybe your teachers out there where you're running a choir rehearsal, and someone will say to you, usually it's the young ladies in the group that will say, well, we can't sing that yet because we're not warmed up. So I'm sure that's true for a lot of people, that they're not going to be able to sing, especially loud high notes, without warm up. So could you speak to that question, just about being warmed up to sing certain things?
So some of that is true. Some of that's just people being weenies, and I'm going to just say it because it's the refusal to try, or the I did it this way once and it didn't feel good, so therefore I'm right, and I can't do it. And I don't get spicy about very much, but that's one of those things. If my student's like, I can't do it, I'll be like, too bad, you're going to do it. And we'll try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure something out. But so some of it's a mental thing. Just shut your brain up a little bit and shut your mouth up from saying those things and try it. Don't be a weenie. You're not going to break. I promise you're not going to break. I sing and teach. I teach 29 students a week and practice. You're not going to break. So try it. B, warming up, it is like muscles that anything else. There is a stretching out process. So yes, waking up out of bed and just having a big high note, that's not probably going to happen because the body is not woken up yet. So there is some truth to that, but these exercises, this progression here, I mean, I've had auditions, not even recently, way before, where I had to sing high C's at 10 a.m. and I had to figure it out. You just have to figure it out. So part of it's a mental thing, just get over yourself. And part of it is using this progression of stretching semi-occluded open vowel that helps the voice get in the right track.
Okay, good. Let me just say, there's 2 minutes left of the webinar, but we've got a few more questions. If Dr. Laun has the time, I think we'll just use it.
Yeah, so, I'm happy to sit for sure.
I'm just sort of having a conversation with them because this is good for me too, and I'm taking notes. So chest voice came up. That was very very useful and interesting what you were saying about it. Are there exercises for developing it? And I don't have any background for this question, but the question is, what are the best exercises to develop chest voice? Maybe this presumes that in some people, maybe it's underdeveloped or something like that.
So I have a couple of students who they barely had any access to that at all. So we had to, that speech exercise that I did with, if you were tuning in during Kayla's lesson, just, hey, my name, hello, in sort of a mix, in sort of a mid-range to lower range where that's more natural speech pitch rather than singing high in that. So that's one. One of the other just purely sensation things that I do is I get especially my ladies, to put a hand across their sternum and very gently pull down on the skin on their sternum and go, to encourage the release of these muscles and to encourage the feeling of the chest voice doesn't resonate in the chest because it's in a different location. It resonates in the chest because of the pitch. But to be able to feel that, releasing into that resonant position there and doing what I was just doing. So I had Kayla and Gabe both. We talked about aspirate onsets with an H, ha, with an H in front. Chest voice, often if we have what's called a glottal onset, where there's a clear beginning. If you were to breathe in to almost cough and stop that, that's one way to do that. You don't want to do that excessively, but that's one of the first ways, because that glottal onset can tire the voice out if we don't do it judiciously. But speech level singing, purely sensation down there. And then chest for the beginning. I want everybody to see my eyes and hear exactly what I'm saying. For the purpose of developing the awareness of your chest register. A little bit of not spread, but just a little bit more horizontal smile. Rather than what I was doing with both of them. That vertical feeling. As that vowel opens this way, it naturally engages more of the chest voice muscles. So hear what I'm saying. Only in the purpose of this exercise to do that. Don't cut and paste that all over your voice. Just for the purpose of getting aware of that chest voice. So those are my top 3 sort of components or exercises to get people beginning to be aware of that part of their voice.
Okay, great. So Next question has to do with stretches. So what are the stretches that you suggest? So I guess we were able to see Gabe couldn't see Gabe stretching except for the first one that he did.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
So what do you recommend?
So the process that I go, so if everybody turns their head and finds the ropey muscle I was saying earlier that inserts behind your ear and that comes down into your collarbone, I take the heel of my hand, this meaty part beneath my thumb, and I anchor where that inserts into my collarbone, and you stretch back and to the side of it. My sternocleidos don't have any tension right now because this is what I do, so it's hard for me to demonstrate, but you want it to be about a 7 out of 10 stretch. It shouldn't be painful. It might be a little uncomfortable, and that's fine. That's how you know you're doing something, but really anchoring with the heel of the hand into that part, stretching away. And you do that on both sides for about 15 to 20 seconds apiece. Then the next thing that I would do, this makes people uncomfortable. So part of this, I get it, but another one of my being spicy, get over yourself for a minute and try it, is we release the tongue, release the jaw, and we find your Adam's apple or your Eve's plum, if you're a girl. That's my term that I've coined for this. It's the laryngeal prominence is our technical term for it. We find that. We go to the sides, release everything, and we move that back and forth. You're probably going to feel some clicking and popping. You're not hurting yourself. The more you do that faithfully, the less that will become, the less that will be present. So don't freak out. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to hurt you. Don't try to rip your larynx out of your throat doing it side to side. I can do it more because I've been doing it for a long time and everything's really flexible in there. But if you just start it, just half an inch. I can do pretty pronounced back and forth because, again, I'm very flexible. I've been doing this for a long time. But that's like you wouldn't try doing a gymnast pass on the floor if you've never done it before. You start with, falling down and rolling over. This is that same thing, just real gentle. Then the third one that I do all the time is you pretend you have a tiny coffee straw and you sip in lots of resistance. Don't be a weenie about it either, just sipping, no. Like lots of air force at the lips. And you see how far my larynx went down before I breathed out. That stretches that larynx low, stretches out those muscles. Those are the three that I do every day. Mm-hmm. And that also, Gabe had a question in his chat box of how do you refresh your voice mid-rehearsal. That's one of the things that you can do is do those stretches mid-rehearsal.
Cool. Okay. So I have one more question on my list. Please don't hesitate. If you have some, just some last minute ones you want to type up. This is the time to do it. So what is the mechanical difference between male head voice and female head voice? I mean, you were trying to sort of demystify a little bit here what's going on in terms of how we use that terminology.
So some of it is, the reason we say head voice in men is because that's where we feel the vibration. It's more of a descriptive term than it is a physiological term. So saying head voice is not going to ruin somebody's career or like ruin your voice. It's just, I always am really, really striving to be clear with my terminology with my students, because I might say something to them that another teacher will say to them the same thing. If I say head voice or mix to my women in belting, it may mean something 100% different from somebody else. So I always try to talk about things in terms of the function, the sensation, and the action. So what's actually happening inside? What does it feel like to you? And then what do you do to achieve it? And then fourthly, there is then sort of an oral component, obviously, what sound comes out. And so I try to be specific. So female head voice is, so male head voice is a sound, not a function. Male head voice, and I can't demonstrate well on the mic, I'm sorry, there's just not enough good technology to do this. But male falsetto and female head voice are closer to the same thing. So, ooh, you sing, ooh, I'm going to sing it there, and a woman sings, ooh, in the same place in head voice. It's going to be the same thing. Chest or if I sing in falsetto and the female sings in head voice, it's going to be closer to the same sound. Whereas if I say sing in head voice to a man and they've never, there's falsetto and there's chest. There's two distinct mechanisms in the male voice. There's also two distinct mechanisms in the female voice, but they're not. Chest voice is the same in both, but head voice is not a thing that men have separately from chest. It is for women. That's a hard thing that's a very lengthy explanation that we don't have quite the time and the resources. If I could demonstrate more of that on a better mic, but
it's not so much the terms that matter as much as what sort of exercises in your approach to developing those particular concepts.
Yeah, precisely. So it's not if somebody says head voice to a man, it's not a bad thing. I just want to make sure that when my students understand that if I say head voice to them, I'm not talking about a falsetto sound. I'm talking about a difference of their chest voice. There's a difference in the chest mechanism for men when I say head voice, or if I say head voice for women, that's a distinct mechanism shift. So it's not bad. You just have to be clear about what you mean.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, I have a question. This is a personal question from Mark Reagan. But I have found, and I might be one of those people that has just a louder voice, at least when I'm singing, or I like to sing loud. But when I find that I'm singing in church, or lately it's been singing at home in the living room with my kids all around, I find that I wear out my voice so quickly because I'm singing softly and I'm singing like sotto voce. And it annoys my wife to no end because I expel so much air when I'm singing that I need longer to breathe. It's just that I can't. I can't. My phonation won't allow me to take small quick breaths. I have to take a long time. So I usually start the phrase about 2 beats late every time, and my wife can't sing with me. She gets upset. Anyway, could you speak to that question, just about that sort of what I might be feeling there, singing softly and vocal fatigue that could be associated with that sort of singing?
So there are two reasons for that. One, if you're singing in church, so I was talking earlier about physical empathy. If you're singing in a church, even like Christ Church and Trinity in Moscow are very singing churches. I mean, we sing loud and big and robustly and joyfully in service, whereas a lot of modern churches, you don't have that. You don't have everybody singing well because there's not understanding, there's not music literacy, but that's a whole discussion for another time. So in these churches, but the average person doesn't sing with good technique. The average person doesn't. So empathetically, those of us that know start to pick up the bad technique from around us and have a hard time breaking out of that. I experience some of the same thing. When I'm singing in church, I can practice for 2.5 hours by myself, and I'm like, yep, feels good. I feel that I've sung. I know my voice knows that I've sung, but it's not like, I'm so tired. And in church, it changes. When we sing, so that's one thing in church that can be a factor. Second thing is that if we're trying to sing quietly healthfully is a lot harder than singing loud, because we often think of quiet singing as holding things back. If I'm going to sing like at full volume, that's fine. Where if I'm going to go at a much quieter volume, that's a lot harder to do without going and trying to hold it in and choke it off. I went to a lesson with one of the most prolific teachers of the last 50 years. He was spectacular. And he had these big giant eyebrows, and I came into his living room. He's this old man, 70 years old and he goes, "What would you like to learn today?" in his very singer voice. And I said, "I want to learn how to sing quietly above my passaggio in my higher range." And he looks at me and he goes, "You want to learn the hardest thing in singing?" And that was his explanation, and I went, oh, I suppose it might be. It's a very difficult thing. I'm 32, and I was 27, 28 when I first discovered how to sing healthfully, quietly. It takes a long time. I had only had that instruction in really direct instruction of that from my doctoral teacher when I was 24 and going into my doctorate. She was the first person that ever talked to me about good dynamic health in the throat. So that's a hard thing to give a good explanation quickly, but don't try to sing quiet here. Think of it less as a throat thing and more like the volume and the outside your body is going to be quieter rather than trying to be quiet inside your body.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I think we'll just end it there.
Great.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for your time. Certainly, if you have questions for me or for Dr. Laun, let us know. Dr. Laun, are you able to? I don't know if you want to, but you could share your contact information.
Of course.
Here and
there's my email. Oops, that's to Jeff Gabe. He knows that. There we go. There's my new St. Andrews email address. Feel free to shoot me an email, and we can, especially with summer coming up, I like to give lessons in person first, but if you'd like a consultation of some kind, please let me know, and we can certainly try to schedule that. We can talk about rates and times and all those things. Again, I like to do it in person first if I can, but given our current situation, and especially the fact that I'm not in any really a few respective locations either, regardless of our world situation. But please email me with questions or with requests or whatever, and I'll be happy to communicate with you about it as best I can.
And certainly, as you have questions about what we do in the Music Conservatory or at NSA, our Certificate of Music program and other things that we do, I've been mailing you like crazy this week prior to this meeting. So please let me know. Just don't hesitate to email, reach out to me. So God bless you all and enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. We look forward to being in touch with you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.